Hello guys, let's take a look at an example today and talk about code readability versus shortening the code. I found an example while browsing open source projects like this. So there's a function with 3 if statements returning false, all returning false, and then at the end returning true. And I thought, is it maybe too long function? Maybe it should be shortened or optimized because 3 different blocks return the same thing. I guess it could be shortened. And then I tweeted, would you shorten that? I came up with 2 more options. So the original is option A, and then option B is just one if statement grouping those 3 together. And as people pointed in Twitter replies, there's a typo here which would cause the error, but that doesn't matter that much. It's just grouping the if statement. And then finally we can make it even shorter, option C, by returning the calculated response of this true and this true and this true. So that's the shortest option. And I've posted it on Twitter just randomly asking people, and I received 250 replies. That was a total shock for me, but from that I can make a video, and let's see what you told me on Twitter. Would you choose option A, refactor to B or C, and why? So first, if we just blindly count the people votes, although there was no official poll, so I cannot count it easily actually, but vast majority of answers were about leaving the option A and not refactor at all. Frag from Spotty told that it's easier to read and debug. A few more people voted for A with a lot of likes because of readability. A few more people told the same thing like Philo Hermans or Ed here or others. And those answers about option A were usually the most upvoted, the most liked. So in general, majority told me to not refactor. And if we go back to reading the example, if you think about it, this is longer but easily readable. If account has access, then return false. If there is no config, require subscription, return. And if account is already subscribed, return false. You can easily read it in almost English language. This one and this one requires some manual mental work inside of the brain to understand what is the condition and stuff like that. I agree with those people who voted for option A. But there are nuances. Some replies on Twitter were deeper with their own examples and more suggestions how to improve that. Let's take a look at those. So for example, Davor with Olivier teamed up for this option. So option C, return true or false immediately, but with better names. So the original option C is quite long to read, and then there's account, and then there's config. If we have readable method names here, that may be an option. Look at this here. Is not submitted, is not approved, is this, and is that. Then it's readable. And then what happens inside of those functions, those may be private functions or public functions. It doesn't matter that much. The implementation doesn't matter. The readability of the main function is still here, very readable. So that's one approach. Go for option C and hide the actual implementation inside somewhere. Another option suggested by Razul here is to group the conditions related to the account and then separately the config. So leave option A but shorten it by grouping similar conditions. Account subscribed, account has access. So this is one group related to account, and another group of if statement is about config. Quite a good suggestion. And you can read all the replies to the original tweet. I will link that in the description below. And I want to finish this video with wise words by Andreas Müller that summarizes it all. We should write code for humans, which means option A is the most readable for whoever is reading that in the future. At the same time, we should write tests that would cover all the branches. Testing the case when one if statement returns false, testing another that another returns false. It would be probably 4 different test methods. Then you do a good job for both humans and automated machine that would launch your code and test. And speaking of automated tests, as mentioned by Andreas, I've recently launched 2 new courses about testing. For those of you who don't have much experience or at all, there's a course for beginners. And then for those of you who do have some experience but want to get deeper and more practical with more complex examples, there's a course about advanced Laravel testing. They are both on my LaravelDailyTeachable.com, where you can also subscribe to yearly membership to get a lot of courses, 36 course bundle at once, plus everything I will release for a year ahead. That's it for this time, and see you guys in other videos.